different sectors. So we're going to break down everything that it shows because it's quite a lot to get through. So joining us this morning is Mitch Goldberg. He's the president of Client First Strategy, and he's helping us to break down the numbers and what it means. And remember, you can submit your questions. We want to hear from you. You can do it right now on our social media pages. So we know now that the unemployment rate for the month of April hit 14.7%, which is the highest rate since the Depression, as the U.S. lost some 20 million jobs. So we do want to go to Mitch Goldberg now to really give us some context on these numbers. We knew it was going to be bad, but now that it's in black and white, and now that we can see the other sectors that have been hit, what do you take from this report?
Okay, there are two ways to look at this report. First of all, I normally don't get emotional about statistics and numbers, but this number is devastating. This one hurts. There is so much pain with this number. It's just really difficult to comprehend. So my heart goes out to everybody affected by this. This is just it's a devastating number. I think it's worse than the Great Depression because of the rapidity in which it happened. The number so that's the emotional part and the devastating part. But from the stock market standpoint, from investor standpoint, this report, I call this report the Bill Murray report because it just doesn't matter. Investors are looking now at states reopening, positive news from the antiviral drug remdesivir, and now what we need to see is how the employment picture changes when these states start reopening, and to see if we could put some of these jobs back onto the payroll.
So I think that really, when we would take a look at a jobs report any month of any year, right, we would look at it to see how our economy is doing and maybe what the government needs to do to, change where we are. But this is a different thing because this is because of a pandemic, and we don't know when businesses are going to be able to open, and when they open, if they're going to be able to be profitable. So how do we take the information from this and the breakdown by sectors to learn and to grow and to possibly do something to change where we're headed with our economy?
Look, everybody expects to have these answers right away. The fact of the matter is we don't have the answers right away. And like you said, this was not a financial crisis. This is a health crisis that morphed into an economic crisis. If you can fix the health crisis, you'll really begin to take care of the financial. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. You'll really begin to take care of the financial crisis, the economic crisis. You want to see everybody's job come back, but you know that the last jobs to come back are probably in the sectors that are hardest hit. Travel, leisure, restaurants, companies like Live Nation, for example, companies and industries that are dependent upon people gathering in person. Office workers will go back to their offices. Schools will eventually figure out how to get back to school and educate, but manufacturing will eventually get back. But it's really those service sectors where you're dealing with a person face to face. Those were the most devastated. Those were the areas where people were probably the least prepared for a shutdown. And that's also going to take the longest to come back.
Okay, so we want to take some of the questions in now. So Anthony is saying, I'm self-employed. I run my own business. I haven't worked since March, but the business has made some money. Can he still file for New York unemployment?
Yes.
Okay, great. William
Anthony, congratulations on being a business owner. And, what you're experiencing, none of us have ever experienced. So this is all new territory. But, first of all, try to get every piece of benefit that you possibly can from PPP, unemployment, business owners, contract workers, gig economy workers. Everybody now is entitled to unemployment benefits.
Right,
it's much more generous now.
Right.
And there's an extra $600 per week. So you should try to get everything you can. You just may need it. So you better do it.
Okay, William is saying, what if you're self-employed, getting PPP? How do you make sure that the funds are forgiven?
There are a couple of strings attached with the PPP. The main one is that at least 75% of your PPP loan, because it's actually a loan, it's not just a windfall, it's not the PPP windfall, it's the PPP loan, and it's not for extra pay for yourself. It's based on maintenance payroll based on last year. You need to spend at least 75% of that on your employee, on payroll, including yourself. The other 25% may be used for things like rent or mortgage interest.
Right.
If you don't do it that way, then you'll have to, then a portion of it will not become a grant. So it doesn't mean
this is not a small business bailout. That's not what this is.
Well, technically it's not a small business bailout, but the money does become a grant and you do get to keep it.
Right.
Providing you pay your employees.
Right.
Look, the government would rather you pay your employees with this loan than everybody run into unemployment.
Right. Okay, so George is asking, why don't you just pay people the $600 PUA if they're having problems getting regular unemployment and then worry about collecting it later, because then at least those people would get something?
It's a great question, and we could think of and that's a good idea, George. That's a very good idea. But they can only do so much. All these programs, the stimulus from the Federal Reserve, from Congress, the CARES Act, these things were thrown together in record time. There's been more stimulus and programs thrown at the economy in just the last few weeks than there were for the entire time of the Great Recession. So it's a great idea, but I don't know if much more could be done. So unfortunately, we have what we have. If we get something extra, great, but I think it's a little bit too much to ask for now. Sorry.
Okay, when we take a look at the job report now and you break it down by category, some 52% loss in personal services, arts and entertainment down over 50%, clothing, accessories close to 60%, gambling, recreation, same thing. Are you at all surprised by these numbers and the picture that they're painting for where we are in America today?
No, I'm not surprised. Not to say that the shock value has worn off. Not at all. But we all knew coming into this, and based on the last 7 weeks, we had 33.5 million people file for first-time unemployment claims. 33.5 million. And the majority of that are from the very sectors, that you just mentioned. Retail, malls are closed, stores are closed, restaurants are closed. Okay, so some of them are trying to make it on takeout and delivery. They lost their bar bill, by the way, which is the most important part for a restaurant. So I'm not surprised at all, and I won't be surprised when jobs come back that these are the last ones to recover.
What do you think we'll expect to see in May?
So this is what's really critical. Between now and June 5th. June 5th is the next non-farm payroll numbers. So we had one today. We have one June 5th. And in between that, we have 4 Thursdays. And every Thursday is when the government announces first-time unemployment claims. So if we can see those trend down, maybe even go into positive territory and get an improvement in May in the labor market, well, that is what I think is going to happen. Certainly, the stock market is betting on that, and that's why the stock market looks like it's going to rally today in spite of this horrendous non-farm payroll.
See, we have seen those numbers going down from where they were. I believe it was the high was the second week of April. But then we also have person after person reaching out to us saying they can't even get through to unemployment. My heart goes out to these people. The fact is, I think the employment figures or lack of employment figures, it's actually worse than what the numbers state. Because if you had everybody able to get access to their unemployment claims and get through to the states, we would have a lot more people, I believe, on unemployment. And the states, nobody was prepared for this massive rush of, tens of millions of people all at the same time. And then you take a look at the unemployment figures and non-farm payroll that just came out this morning. If you took away people who said they're not unemployed, because a lot of people don't think of themselves as unemployed. They're furloughed or they're still getting benefits. They don't look at this as permanent
as a permanent loss of their job. They see it as, I'll be going back to work sometime between the middle of May and the beginning of June. So I think the numbers are worse than they actually look. And that's a pretty big thing to say because the numbers are so terrible.
Right, and when you consider that people who are furloughed are probably still paying their rent and paying their mortgages because they do have that hope, that anticipation that they are going to have a job to return to. But the big question is, will the PPP work, and will these places, be able to hire these workers back?
Well, all the stimulus did was buy us time. The PPP, excuse me, is an 8-week program for you. As a business owner, when you receive PPP, you have to use it within 8 weeks. The extra $600 per week for unemployment, that's over in July. We all, many people got a stimulus check. Anyone who got the stimulus check has spent it already. So it's these things that have enabled people to keep spending, to keep ordering from Amazon, to put food on the table. When this stuff runs out, the question is, do we get another round of stimulus?
Right.
I don't know about that. The whole betting is that we will be on track again over the next few weeks. But so far, that's where we are.
Okay, great. So we're going to continue this conversation. And remember, you can submit your questions right now on our social media pages, and we answer them for you live here on News 12. We'll be right back.
News 12's closed captioning is brought to you by Earworks Audiology, 11 Long Island locations. The sound. News 12's closed captioning is brought to you by.
Okay, thank you to everybody who is still with us as we continue to stream on Facebook. So I'm just going to prep the next section as our kind of behind the scenes window streams here. So thank you so much. I have to say, when I was taking a look at the numbers when they first came in, and I started picturing, our downtowns, my hometown, how they rebuilt it, and how these businesses, small business owners, took a risk and invested everything they have in these businesses that are closed. And when you look at what these numbers are, I know you were saying, earlier, when you look at it, typically in black and white, they're numbers, but these are people's faces. These are our communities, and this is such a tough report to really look at.
And it's brutal. And in addition, these are people now who have to receive benefits and loans to keep their businesses going. These are people who have their lives invested in these businesses. I'll tell you another thing that I think is helping to hold off literally a depression right now is that we have mortgage forbearance. Landlords cannot evict anybody if a tenant doesn't pay rent for a few months. Had it not been for these things, you might see a lot of evictions, a lot of foreclosures right now. You would see banks get hurt. It just, we are part of a food chain. And I think small business is it's the base of the food chain because small businesses are the biggest employers in the economy. Right. In spite of what you hear about the major averages, the stock market, it's small business that gives people the money to spend in our economy. So this is devastating. And you're just, a lot of small businesses are just wondering, how the heck am I going to get through this?
Absolutely. All right, we are 30 seconds back to the linear live TV portion of the show, so you might lose my mic in just a second. And when I was checking my watch, it wasn't you. I get the text messages on here, so I'm getting updates from my producers at the same time. So I'm sorry if I threw you off. I was trying to find out what the latest numbers were as we were trying to digest them in real time.
That is a great use of technology. That's really good.
Welcome back to our live Coping in the Crisis special report. This morning, we're discussing the April jobs report, that is, and it showed that April's job losses almost completely erased the gains made during the past decade's expansion. So what does this mean for all of us? You can submit your questions, your financial questions right now on our Facebook pages. And joining us this morning, Mitch Goldberg, president of Client First Strategy. And so when we were just talking before, we were talking about the importance that our small businesses play in our communities and the ripple effect those businesses have, to the economy as a whole.
Okay. If I may say, the amount of job losses in the last 7 weeks are far greater than all of the jobs that have been created since the end of the Great Recession. So it's like the news just gets worse and worse. So, how do we bounce back? How do we recover? We need to find the right balance to get people back to work. States are reopening. We're going to learn an awful lot from every state, from every city. We need to do it slowly and carefully, but we must get the economy going again. We are, as America, we are our economy. Our economy is our greatest strength, and it's the glue that holds us together. Yes, there are other things. We've got the amazing heritage and all the wonderful things that make this country the greatest country in the world. But our economy is part of that. And if you don't have the economy to literally fund everything, then you can't have everything. So that's what's going to get small businesses back in play and somehow convincing people that it's safe to go visit a small business. We hope to get a vaccine. Everyone's working on it. There are something like 30 or 40 companies working on vaccines. Hopefully we'll get something soon. Hopefully.
Right.
I know you want more than just hopefully, but unfortunately we don't really have anything better than that right now.
So Melissa is asking, why are they giving PPP loans to businesses that are not allowed to open, forcing us to go back to work before, they're allowed to?
Well, the government would rather keep a business alive, even if it's barely a pulse. If these businesses could barely fog a mirror, they're kept alive. And the idea is that when the economy does open up again, that just like you hit the ground running and the business just opens up right away, everybody come back and we're up and running. Now, you would think like, well, if you have the PPP loans and you can't, for example, open your business now, well, use the PPP for when you could open up, but you do have to use it right away. So unfortunately, also the government doesn't want people on unemployment. They would rather people get paid by the PPP loan.
Right.
A lot of people are very upset about this because people are now getting paid more to stay home with the unemployment benefits.
Right, and they're changing some of that now and really tweaking how that goes. So if your employer offers to hire you back and you turn that down. Well,
you have to basically go back and take the lower wages from your employer. So, we're talking about small businesses. This is one of the things that I feel bad about for small business owners is that they're competing now not just against other businesses for labor, they're competing with the government for labor. People are angry that their business owner, that their boss called them back to work because they're still going to stay home in a lot of cases. They'll just be getting a lot less money. So it's this whole thing has been just thrown together very quickly. And that really speaks to the answer that your previous viewer asked as well.
Mm-hmm. So we have another question, this one coming from Marie, so it's a little more complex. She says she has a regular job, but also a side job, a 1099 as a travel agent, lost reservations that were booked, no new reservations coming in. So can she apply for unemployment for a second job?
Well, I don't think so. If you have two businesses, you can apply for two different PPP loans for each business. But as an individual, no, you don't get to double dip and double your unemployment claims.
Yeah, and I would say to call your office, because I know with the pandemic assistance that they also have through unemployment, that they made some changes to. There are some different stipulations, so maybe there might be some hope from her. Sharon is asking about the stimulus check, saying it hasn't come. She is on SSI disability. Will she get one or not?
You will. I hope you went to the website, the IRS website, to double check the address or bank information. I mean, they should have your bank information because people receive SSI, Social Security, disability. They receive that directly into, as direct deposit. But a lot of people have not received their those funds yet. There are some stipulations. If you have dependents, if you are on SSI and you have dependents, there are a number of hoops you have to run through to make sure you can get it. So check the IRS website and make sure you're not missing anything.
Okay, John is asking, I had to close my company due to the coronavirus. I was paid for 2019 with a K-1 from my company. Since I did not receive a W-2 or 1099 in 2019, my accountant says I can't collect unemployment. Is that correct?
A K-1 it's not too dissimilar from a 1099. I have to defer these kinds of questions to the CPAs, but I would get a second opinion from another CPA. I don't think you'd be penalized because that's how you got paid. I mean, if you're an S Corp, a C Corp, 1099, W-2 employee, you still can receive unemployment. So the K-1 is really I think it's for partnerships. Mm-hmm. So I would double check. You do pay taxes on it, so I would double check with it. Maybe get a second opinion.
Right, because there's.
I wish I had a better answer for you. I'm sorry.
Right, and there's so much, and everyone's situation is just a little bit different. And we are trying to get through your questions and get you as many answers as we can. You're watching Coping in the Crisis, a special report as we focus on this latest report, the April's jobs numbers and what they mean to our communities. We'll be right back. Okay, we are still streaming on Facebook, so hello to everybody there. I just was sending my producer a message just to get an update on the last section and some of the wording, so I'm just waiting. Okay, great. So we have viewers, luckily, who are in Connecticut, New Jersey, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Westchester, Hudson Valley, Long Island. So I want to talk about the entire tri-state area and the governor's idea that this should be rolled out as like a uniformed kind of thing so that we're not going from one state or one area to another, but what that means to areas that maybe weren't as hard hit by all of this and their reopening and their economies. So we're going to just talk about that at the top here, Mitch, okay? I'm not sure.
Okay. I can hear you. Yep.
Oh, you can? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
And I'm just looking into it's hard to go through the data and also talk at the same time.
Yeah, well,
so I'm trying to do both.
Absorbing data and talking to me and now listening to me. I'll just be quiet. Let you do your thing.
No, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that I have, the most important information from this report out there. But it's obviously a lot to wade through.
I can relate small business to the stock market too, because the Russell 2000 index.
Okay.
That's the main small cap index. Mm-hmm. That's down 23% this year, versus down 10% for the S&P 500, which is the large cap index.
Okay, so just a reminder that we have 2 minutes for this section, so it's a little bit shorter, and I will try to, if I need to wrap you, kind of just let you know that I need to take the baton. So we're 15 seconds away. Welcome back to our Coping in the Crisis special report as we take a look at this April jobs report and what it means. And as I've been, trying to go a little deeper into the dive of this, I'm looking other sectors that lost here. Healthcare, 2.1 million, and manufacturing, 1.3, construction, 1 million. I mean, the numbers are just staggering. Breaking down all the information, we have Mitch Goldberg joining us right now to help us, look at what this could mean and how we recover. So taking a look at some of the minutia and the details, what do you think it means for this tri-state area?
Well, our area, the tri-state area, has been the hardest hit in the nation. And we, what does it mean? It's going to take us longer to get back on our feet. We happen to have a governor who's being very cautious, and I think there's good reason to be cautious. He is, Governor Cuomo is talking with the governors of Jersey and Connecticut, and they are planning to get the economy up and running again. So what does it mean? It means it's going to take us a lot longer. It means we are probably, we will be a lagging economy in terms of getting our economy back to work compared to the rest of the country.
Now, really quickly here, a lot of people taking a look at their 401ks, and the stock market is not doing what the economy is doing.
That's the most common question I get. In the S&P 500, which is an index that you cannot invest directly into, but you could invest in a security that tracks your membership index. But the S&P 500 does not include the Main Street bakery or the pizzeria.
All right, so we're going to have to end it there. We
cap.
appreciate your conversation. We appreciate all of your questions. News 12, more straight ahead.
Thank you.